you deserve to get curb stomped by Shadow the Hedgehog. Welcome to the Less Than a Day podcast. Don't ask us to explain the name. We're not going to. I'm Kay.
I'm Kiko.
And we're here to talk about books, movies, TV shows, geeky things. Major spoiler warnings for every piece of media ever created. Will it always be accurate? Definitely not. But we will be talking about pretty much everything. So our first segment, as per usual, is current events. This is where we catch each other up on the media that we've been consuming since our last recording. Kiko, what's new? I know you committed to everything you said you were going to read or watch or whatever last time we recorded.
You know, that's what I'm known for, actually. I am the icon of commitment. There are no commitment issues on my end here. No, I actually didn't finish anything I said I would finish. Clap if you're surprised. No one is. I did, however, watch I finished and watched actually many new things, but none of them things I said on the podcast.
Okay, well, at least it's something, bro.
I did watch a lot of new things. 2 of them I won't mention because they're on my lists, actually.
Okay,
So
interesting.
I won't do that, but okay. So I don't know if you've heard of this show called When the Phone Rings.
I think you mentioned to me a while ago that you were going to watch it.
Yeah, so it's this Korean show, and it kind of blew up a little bit because the premise was kind of Wattpad-esque, which I wasn't really expecting. I thought it would be a thriller, but it's more of like a romance with some thriller elements. A rising politician and his mute wife's tense marriage begins to unravel after a call from a kidnapper turns their lives upside down. So this show, my overall review of it is that it was trash fire. No other word can describe it. And our friend B, who is going to be on a future episode, we were kind of watching it alongside each other and texting each other. And she also agreed that it was trash fire. It started out intriguing, and then it quickly turned to absolute ridiculousness. You know what's so crazy? I'm looking at this here, and it says 8.1 out of 10 on My Drama List, 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb, and 27% Rotten Tomatoes.
Brother, that tells you all you need to know.
Truly a range. So that politician and his wife, right? The politician is an absolute asshole, okay? I don't know. They try to use justification for it of his asshole behavior and stuff.
Yeah. So I have some book updates. In fact, I've been doing a lot of reading. So first and foremost, we'll start with the good. I read Assistant to the Villain based on a recommendation from my book club. And I've got to say, like, my expectations were truly in the trash, but Anna said it was good too. I really enjoyed it. It's very, like, I want to say the writing is borderline juvenile, where it's witty and it's funny, but the style, the tone of voice is very childish. And it reads like, I mean, from the title alone, Assistant to the Villain, it sounds like a manhwa, right? And it does read like a manhwa, where it feels like a series of events that would happen in different arcs within chapters, the way that it's structured. But I really enjoyed it because it was pure fun, I think. It was truly turn your brain off and enjoy this. It was a lot of fun, and the romance was really adorable.
Okay, I might read that. Like, that actually, before anything, might be my next read, because that sounds like the type of book to get me out of
my God, actually,
book
it's
slump.
Perfect for you. It absolutely will take you out of your slump. Because, like, there's no investment whatsoever. Like, there is world building, there is a backstory, and these characters are complex. But at the same time, it's not nerd homework. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, have you been reading anything else?
Yeah, so look, I feel like it's been my job in the last year to sort of forge through the wastes of book talk. And I picked up Powerless. Was it a moment of weakness or was it a moment of bravery? That's up to you to decide.
I'll interpret it as bravery.
The things I do for you
I know.
Look, shockingly, book 1 is not bad. It's not good. I feel like I say that about a lot of things. But there's literally nothing unique about this book at all. Because I think I've read so much YA, like so much YA, that the book itself wasn't particularly unique in terms of other YA books, which is why I'm so surprised that it's as popular as it was. Because I swear to God, I've read about a dozen books exactly like Powerless.
Yeah, because I think with book talk books, it's not that, I don't know if like, I don't think they're, I guess I haven't like read a lot of them, but like, I don't think they're particularly good. It's just what people have picked up most recently. Like they haven't read, I feel like people are just now getting into fantasy, right? So this is what they first come into contact with. So this for them is special.
And honestly, as a YA book, it's not bad. I think that the male lead and the female lead do have pretty good banter. I think the world building's not the best, but it's not bad either. I think that the plot is interesting enough that there's no lull. It's constantly moving forward. Something is always happening, I would say. I think that the author also does a good job at expressing deep emotion, especially the scenes where the main character feels angry. I think I really felt for her, especially near the end. It's not bad. 2. I've stopped reading book 2 actually. Like I had to take a break from it and read something else because I just couldn't. Dude, it's like okay, so slight spoilers for the first book, but the first book ends with her going on the run, right? So going into book 2, it's his job to go track her down and bring her back to arrest her, basically.
This kind of reminds me of a certain book.
Listen, I told you, it's not unique, but it's cool because I think that there's stakes there, right? They really build the tension of them hating each other, but also having that be a little bit tragic because they did have like a little bit of love for each other too. My problem is that in the first 50% of this book, it has been nonstop. He finds her, he catches her, she escapes. Then he finds her again. Suddenly he's being captured? Question mark. He doesn't escape. They both get captured. They both escape. And now he's captured her again. It's kind of endless. The first couple of times I was on board. At one point, it feels like we reached a resolution and then they get captured again. And I'm like, brother, come on, please.
It's like an endless cycle.
It's like an endless cycle and nothing gets resolved. And it's honestly, it's getting really boring. And that's why I'm not going to DNF it. I will go back and finish it, but I had to take a break and read something else. It's rough. It is rough. I don't know what the author was thinking. So, yeah. That's Powerless. We'll see how it goes. Maybe it gets better in the second half. I don't think it will, but maybe it gets better. But anyway, I think that's it for current events. All right, let's move on to our main topic. So we did this last year. It's crazy that we've been doing this for a year, especially with our upload schedule, but consistency, baby. All right. So 2024 in review. Our bests, our worsts, honorable mentions, dishonorable mentions. We are doing something different this time where we've made guesses beforehand as to what we think each other's bests and worsts are.
We will be revealing those guesses after all the lists, though, because we want the list to stay a surprise, just in case we guess something right.
Listen, I don't think I guessed any of yours right. That being said, the lists I made, the guesses I made, are the guesses that you should have picked. So, if it's wrong, it's your fault for being wrong.
I'll accept that. I'll humbly accept that.
Okay, so we're gonna start on a positive note. Let's kick this year off with some hope. Let's remember 2024 fondly. So, our top 5 bests. Are you ready?
Yep.
Let's do it. At 5th place for you, Kiko.
Yeah, 5th place, Chaos.
Okay, yes.
This was a complete surprise. I won't actually talk about this that much because we have already talked about this in kind of length in a previous episode. but I'll say the summary. A darkly comedic and contemporary reimagining of Greek mythology exploring themes of gender, politics, power, and life in the underworld. 6 humans learn that they are component parts of an ancient prophecy. So this is like a modern and very darkly humorous retelling of Greek mythology. It is so good. Netflix has canceled the second season, but that is okay because the first season wrapped up very nicely. Very pretty bow.
So funny. We literally recorded that episode talking about how much we love chaos and like how we would like a season 2, but it's fine if there isn't one. And like literally, I think the next day or like in the next 2 days, Netflix announced that they canceled season 2.
Yeah, I think we both kind of predicted that they would cancel this because this was, this felt like a one and done thing.
But
like
gods
it was,
know we need 10 seasons of Emily in Paris. Like,
I just don't understand that. And like, wouldn't that be more expensive because they're filming internationally? I just don't understand, but that's fine. This is fine. It's fine.
Yeah, look, even though there's only one season, the show is so good. I still recommend it. Okay. Listen, I believe in this one, okay? So my 5th place is Sonic 3.
So I just want to say, before you start anything, you're so full of bullshit. Like, I just want to say that.
Listen.
We watched this in theaters together.
We did. On my birthday,
On your birthday.
Like, look, this movie was perfection, okay? It was so good. I expected it to be so shit. Like, I expected to go into it being bored of it, because this is gonna be a hot take. I don't think Sonic 1 is that good. I think that it's a fine movie, but I think that it would not have been as popular if it wasn't for the fact that everyone freaked out about the original design for Sonic. The first Sonic is only okay. But dude, Sonic 3 was so good.
Sonic 3 was so good, but I don't think it was good enough to put into your bests.
Nah, I just
don't believe that. I cannot believe
for that laser dance scene alone. Like,
that laser dance scene was the best part of 2024. But
that Amy reveal, bro, we were screaming. We were screaming. Nah, this was great.
That was really good. But I don't know, man. It
was so good. I watched a lot of shitty movies, all right? Sonic was it's definitely probably the best movie I watched last year. I honestly can't think of a movie that I enjoyed more than watching Sonic, or a new movie. Oh, I guess I should preface by saying the criteria for this list is these are things that we watched in 2024. It's not necessarily that they were released. We watched or read or played it in 2024. So because there's definitely stuff on this list that has been released maybe ages before, but I only watched it last year. So, but this did come out in 2024 and it was phenomenal. They really closed the year off on a high note. And more importantly, it beat Mufasa. And that's all we care about. Because fuck Disney. Like, we did not need a Mufasa movie. Nobody likes the live action Lion King. The cash grab is crazy. And you deserve to get curb stomped by Shadow the Hedgehog. Thank you very much.
No, I will. This was a high point for sure, but one of the highest points was it's a little crazy, but I get it. I do get it. I get your intentions behind it.
Yeah, I stand by it. I'll die on this hill. Actually, you know what's funny? Anna saw this list before, and she's like, I cannot believe you put some of these things higher than Sonic 3. Sonic 3 should have been number 1. So take from that what you will. Anyway, I'm ready to move on. Number 4, you ready?
Yep.
Let's go. Oh, yeah. Interesting.
So my number 4 was the Hit Me Hard and Soft album by Billie Eilish. So this took me by surprise because I didn't even listen to her last album. And I listened to this album months and months after it was released. I just decided I'm trying to listen to whole albums. So this took me by surprise. It's just such a solid album. I love the production on it. I love the vocals. I love the messaging behind some of these songs.
Is this the album with Feather?
Yeah, Birds of a Feather.
Yeah, I don't like that song. I'm sorry.
There are definitely songs I like better than others, but I still think it's I think it's a no-skip album for me personally.
Okay. It's really interesting that you put an album on there.
Yeah, this was in like my Spotify Wrapped too. Which was really surprising because I only started listening to it towards the end of the year.
How accurate was your Spotify Wrapped? Because mine was way off base.
I'm embarrassed of my Spotify Wrapped. I'm truly so humiliated by my Spotify Wrapped. And I didn't share my 2024 Wrapped.
Wild. I got my 2024 Wrapped. I'm like, well, what is it? Because like the song it said that I listened to the most was shocking because I literally listened to it. I did listen to it a lot, but I know for a fact I've listened to so many other songs on repeat since the start of the year.
I knew for sure I wanted to put a music album on here, but I actually had another one in mind, but this one just hit me hard. So
I mean, it's in the title.
I think it's just a really beautiful sounding album. So that's that.
Okay. My number 4. All right. Red, White, and Royal Blue. I think we knew this was coming.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
I told you this one was going to be short because we've talked about a lot of these before. And yeah, we talked about why I love Red, White, and Royal Blue. It's one of those things where it's the things that really stick with me are the things that when I watch or read it or like even listen to music, it's the things that sort of linger with me after it's done. Mm-hmm. And they may not be the best thing in the world. Not to say that Sonic 3 isn't cinematic masterpiece.
You're so dumb.
And should have been nominated for every category in the Oscars. Who was Amelia
I think
Perez?
It should be nominated for at least one Oscar, but not every category.
You're wrong for that. But the experience of watching this movie and reading this book did sort of stick with me as like just like a really sweet romance, but also I think it was very reflective of that early 20s mindset of being in school. What am I doing with my life? And like, is running 100% forward without stopping or looking back or really considering what I'm doing really healthy for me in the long terms? Like, what are my goals? Like, there's so much in there that I felt like I really connected with. And honestly, it was just a good romance. After reading so much trash romance this year, like,
I think a lot of people would probably agree with you, and it's probably on their tops for,
for sure. Everything that we talked about in our romance episode, where we're talking about the banter between the characters, like the nicknames, the inside jokes, the sort of slowly falling for each other, but also having that initial attraction without jumping in head first. Having development that really pays off when characters get together, so it doesn't feel like the end of a story even. But just like the next steps. Everything we talked about, this book does. So I stand by this. That's all.
Yeah, I think, that's a very solid pick.
Okay. Number 3. Let's go.
Okay. Yeah, my number 3 is a Korean show called Gyeongsung Creature. And it's 2 seasons. The first season takes place in the past, and the second season takes place in the present. The summary is, in the city of Gyeongsung in 1945, a group of young people thinking only of their own survival encounter a monster born of human greed and ask themselves what humanity is. This show, a lot of these shows on my tops have taken me by surprise, but this is a really I cried for this show.
Oh, damn. You don't cry. Damn.
This was a really emotional show for me. I think the characters and the relationships were just really beautifully written. Honestly, it's just such a good show, and I recommend people to watch it. I think it was a really underrated show, too.
I feel like I've seen the poster for this, but
it's also scary. And I don't really...
Okay, yeah.
I watch a lot of scary things, which I don't normally do, but I couldn't resist the actors because I really like them. But it's such a phenomenal show. I think it really lingered after I watched it. So that's all I'll say on that.
I'm adding it to my list. See, I love doing this just so I get more recommendations.
Get recommendations, yeah.
Okay, I'm at number 3. What did I put? Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Kevin Kifo himself. Look, yet another show that we already talked about in detail on this podcast. Again, I can't recommend this show enough just because it's so unique. It's so cool. It's probably one of the most unique TV shows I've ever watched. Annie Murphy killed it. It was great.
Yeah.
It's been some time since I watched a show that really blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I feel like the show does it from the first episode and then it just keeps building from there. I think season 1 especially is phenomenal. So highly recommend it. Okay. Number 2. Let's go. Oh.
Another scary show. It's a Korean show. It's called Revenant. And the summary is Gu Sun-young, a possessed struggling student, and Yeom Hae-sung, an exorcist who can see demons, confront a demon about a series of mysterious deaths and the 5 sacred objects surrounding it. Oh my god, the show was so fucking good. It's just really such a high quality show. I just don't understand how people don't talk about this more. It's only 12 episodes too, but it's like a perfect story. The acting, once again, absolutely excellent. The main characters are just so good. I don't know how to explain it because I don't want to spoil anything because these are all like very thriller based shows.
Yeah, honestly, like a lot more spooky than I expected you to go.
Yeah, the main character, the switch between when she switches to possessed is so good. It's so creepy. Absolutely loved it. Highly recommend this one too, obviously.
Okay, my number 2, One Dark Window.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, again, this is one of the few book talk recommendations that I read this year. And honestly, I think the trend is that if somebody else recommends it to me, or if it's a book that I already had an interest in reading without the popularity, I think those have turned out to be good. Because I had wanted to read One Dark Window for ages. I didn't even realize it had become like so popular until I tried to get a copy and it was like, here's a 20-week wait. And dude, this book, I think, is a perfect representation of what I want fantasy for adults to be, or at least graduating from that sort of YA fantasy to, I don't want to say romantasy, but kind of fantasy with romantasy. The world building is incredibly cool. It takes place in this like sort of gothic style secluded kingdom that has sort of an eerie vibe throughout. It's very interesting. The magic system is so cool. It's all like themed around playing cards basically, which is fascinating.
Yo, that sounds so cool. I love concepts like that.
And the romance, I think it's the perfect level of romance for me personally, because there is a romance between the main characters, but it doesn't detract from the story at all. Right? You could have taken it out of the story and nothing would have changed. But because it was there, there's this like added layer of tension in book 2 where he has to consider if the decisions that he's making are going to affect her. And because he's in love with her, it makes things more complicated for him, which is so cool. And same for her on her end as well. But honestly, the most interesting thing I would say about these two books is the relationship between Elsipeth and the Nightmare. Their story is so complicated, but also a little bit sweet, where he's killing her, but also feels sort of like a fatherly affection for her, but also needs to use her, but also doesn't want her to die. Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool that I wanted to base my D&D character off of the relationship, because it's kind of like a warlock and their patron is the way I would describe the relationship. I wanted to base a D&D character off of it, but my DM vetoed it. And I feel okay saying that because there's no shot he's listening to that. But it's so good. I highly recommend it. Okay. Are you ready? Drum roll. You're number 1. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yo!
Look, you cannot make me pick.
Hell yes.
They are one in the same, okay? Look, the excellence of these shows. I should probably explain. Right, Not Another D&D podcast and Dimension 20's every campaign. Look, 2024 was the year of D&D, baby, for me personally.
For real.
Like, literally, the way I consumed these shows. I consumed 2 of the NADPOD campaigns. I think I'm like well into the 3rd campaign. I've watched every single Dimension 20 campaign except for Tiny Heist, which I will be doing. I've watched the adventuring parties for everything. I just love watching campaigns so much.
Yes.
Yeah, this really did kept me fed and full, you know? I don't know what else to say. They're hilarious and they're just so good. It's so fun.
Honestly, I think they're also kind of the perfect length too, for just like consuming a bunch of D&D content. NADPOD especially, I feel like is so easy to listen to because each episode is only like an hour and a half long. And I think it's like this perfect blend of comedy, but also it can be so serious and so emotional.
Yeah.
I got a little choked up at the end of campaign 1. Like, there's some scenes at the very end.
Yeah,
the Balnor scene really, really got me.
No, not the Balnor scene, brother. Not the Balnor scene. No, that was so emotional.
Like, I loved it. There's so many highlights from that first Kip. It's great.
Yeah. People should get into watching D&D. That's all I can say.
Honestly, it's getting more popular. I've noticed a lot of people getting especially into Dropout, and then once they get into Dropout, getting into Dimension 20, it's like a pipeline. I love it.
Yeah.
So
I think this was going to be my number one, like, no matter. Like, this was the first thing on my list. This was the first thing I wrote down.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Honestly, I kind of wish I had remembered it for last year. Because I think I listened to a lot of NADPod in 2023. So if I had remembered it, I probably would have talked about it. But yeah, it's great.
You slowly, like, snake charmed me. I swear.
So, like, listen, next I got to get you to play.
Yeah, I would, like, love to have that experience. I think I've only played maybe one shot for sure, but I don't remember if I ever played another one. But that one shot DM'd by Anna was really fun.
Oh my god. Anna is such a good DM. But anyway.
Okay, for your number one, drum roll.
Okay, drum roll. I think this is going to be a surprise, actually.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, complete surprise.
Okay, Your Eternal Lies might be the best manhwa I've ever read. And I can say that with 100% confidence. It's absolutely serious. It's not, there are moments of comedy in there, but this is a full drama, and just the stakes are so high. So it's about, I forget, look, I can't tell you any character's name. That's not true. I know his name. His name is Ian Connor. I forget what her name is.
The names aren't important in manhwas.
The names aren't really important. But she is a criminal, right? She's been convicted of killing her husband, but also of being a witch. And witches are real, and they're highly feared. But you don't know if she is or isn't a witch, because she also lies constantly. Like, you can never tell if she's telling the truth or not. So our male lead, Ian Connor, is like a war hero, and his job is to escort her to prison. And it's basically like this Alcatraz-style island. If she goes there, she's 100% going to die. There's no shot. She has already escaped from prison before.
Yeah.
And so it's this, like, sort of dance between the two of them where he's trying to figure out if she's actually innocent or if she's lying to him and playing him. And she is trying to find a way to escape, but they're also falling for each other, right?
Yeah,
it's just phenomenal. And both of these characters are so well written. And Ian especially, male leads in manhwas, especially romance manhwas, tend to be really flat, in my opinion.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
They're honestly kind of just like sexy stand-ins, but he's such a complicated character that was so refreshing. Yeah, it's so good. And it keeps you on your toes till the end of just, is she going to make it out? Is she going to stay for him? Is he going to catch her? Is she lying? Because you really don't know if she is or isn't lying about everything she's saying until the end. And it's amazing. I highly recommend it.
I just added it to my my list.
Yeah, between the themes of feminism in this and the themes of like anti-war and not colonialism. What's the word I'm looking for?
Imperialism?
There we go. Colonization. Yeah, imperialism. It's crazy, bro. It's amazing. Anyway, so those are our bests. I think we're going on to honorable mentions now.
Yes.
You ready to find out? Honorable mentions. Let's go. Okay. Oh, wow. You did a lot more than I did.
Yeah, look, I couldn't pick. So the first one, The Inheritance of Lost by Kiran Desai.
That's interesting.
So this is not the type of book I would ever read. I literally have never read like a literary book. This book was just, I think I had to put it on my honorable mentions because it was just such a different quality of book than I was used to. The writing itself, I think it's the best writing I've ever like come across, because I'm used to reading like these YA fantasies, if I'm being honest, and I don't get this fucking quality of writing in YA fantasies. But truly such an emotional story, such like an extremely dark story. I read this in one sitting. I started at sometime in the night and I finished it at like 4 a.m. I was blown away by this. I think, and it was such like an interesting read as an Indian. Yeah, I think if you're Indian, you should maybe like give it a try. The Good Partner, I think I talked about it on a previous episode, but you don't really see two female leads in a Korean drama that often. So I really like that about them. I loved the characters, the two leads. It's just so solid. Obviously, The Mummy Returns had to be on there.
Of course.
Like, it had to be on there.
Okay.
There's a show called Song of Bandits that I think was really solid. I think it was a shorter show. It's a historical Korean show. The Equalizer, I watched very recently. For some reason, I love action franchises. I just never watched The Equalizer. And it's just so cool. And Denzel Washington is even cooler than I imagined.
Yeah.
There's a show called Blood Free that I think is so cool. It has a lot of political meanings, and I think it's a very thought-provoking show. Mm-hmm. The female lead is very interesting. She's so smart. She's cold. She's calculated, but she has like a lot of humanity behind her. The shell that she puts up. A Shop for Killers, I really, really liked. They're making a second season, so yay for that. But such a cool action show.
Dude, it looks really cool.
It's such a cool show for sure. It's very different from normal Korean action shows. Mm-hmm. There's a YouTube video.
Jenny Nicholson, let's go.
From icon Jenny Nicholson called The Spectacular Failure of the Star Wars Hotel. It's 4 hours, 5 minutes, and 39 seconds. And I watched every single minute of that shit. Like, it was so good. So well researched. So well put together. She went there, she visited, she did research. She makes perfect YouTube videos. I got into long form content because of her. Yeah, she like releases one video a year. This was an incredible video for me because I love Star Wars. And then lastly, The Legend of Vox Machina Season 3 obviously had to make itself on there. Like, phenomenal.
Okay, so are we ready to move on?
Yep. Your honorable mentions are...
Okay. Look, Good Omens should have been on my list, all right? Honestly, it might have even been like number 1 or 2 on my list, but it's just too depressing.
I'd started making this list way before the news came out, and that was on my list.
Yeah.
And I took it out.
It's so unfortunate. I don't know. I don't even know if I could go back and enjoy it anymore, which is really depressing because it truly is one of the best shows I've ever watched. I played so much of Shadow of the Erd Tree this year, but I think there's some serious problems with the DLC, even though I enjoyed it. I think that the new areas, like the new map, is gorgeous. Like, truly gorgeous. Maybe even prettier than the OG map. But there's some plot stuff that happens in this section that's real weird. I don't know how I feel about it. I also had Vox Machina Season 3. What We Do in the Shadows is phenomenal. It's so funny. We watched the movie for Halloween together, but I actually don't think it's as good as the show, and that might be a controversial take.
I started watching the show with my dad, and it's just so good.
Chaos is also on my honorable mentions. The Poppy Roar, I don't think I talked about this. I did read it. Book 1 is phenomenal. I read the first book. It's amazing. I got through the second book. Look, it's amazing. I will say that. I just felt like at the time I was reading it, I was not in the mood to read something so dark. And it's definitely one of the darkest books I've ever read.
Oh, interesting.
And I had to check. I had this feeling. I had a theory about what happens to the main character at the end, because I felt like the story was progressing in a way where there's only one way that it could go. And so I did what I usually do. I picked up the last book and I just read the ending, and I was like, yeah. I see where we're going. I don't know if I can get emotionally invested in this because I'm already not enjoying this experience.
Yeah,
so
fair enough.
But it is phenomenal. It's definitely up there with one of the best books I've ever read. And Has Been Hotel. The songs are catchy. I don't know what to tell you. It's funny. It's dark. It's emotional. I
Yeah,
liked
it's
it.
been on my watch list because you recommended it. I don't really watch animated things, so I definitely don't. It's not like something I'll watch immediately, but I think I will eventually get around to it.
Yeah, but it is good. Some of the songs actually are on like my workout
Nice.
playlist. Like they're good.
Oh, the song from What We Do in the Shadows, You're Dead, is on my playlist.
Right, dude. Why is it so catchy?
It's so good.
Yeah, we should talk about that show at some point because the last season I think just finished releasing on Hulu and I'm catching up with it. And I'm really curious to see how it's gonna end. Okay, it's now time to see if we were right or wrong about our guesses for each
Uh,
other. Prediction. Okay, interesting. Oh, you guessed.
yeah.
You guessed pretty close.
I think Red, White, and Royal Blue is the only one that's exactly at the place. Vox Machina was on your honorable. Chaos was in your honorable, right? Poppy War was in your honorable.
Yeah,
And then Kevin
honestly,
is
yeah, and
on
Poppy
there.
War was on my. Yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it.
The one that was giving me trouble was you said you'd watched Wicked and then you said you really liked it. So I was debating putting it on there.
Wicked was good. It was not life changing. Like I feel like everything that I picked is like it stayed
Yeah.
with me.
I agree.
Like
Yeah.
after I'd
Same with
watched it.
mine.
And Wicked was fun and I enjoyed it and I'm looking forward to part 2, but it didn't like change my
Yeah.
life. Ooh, people might not like when I say that. Anyway. All right. So my guess is I guessed NADPOD and Fantasy High. Subnautica, I cannot believe is not on your list.
No, Subnautica, I knew you'd put it on the guesses. But the thing is, I haven't kept up with constantly playing it. And I haven't played enough of it. I watched a whole playthrough, but like I haven't played it in such a long time. Played for a lot of time in a really short amount of time. So I didn't put it in my tops. But it's definitely a really great game. I would have put it on my honorable mentions if I remembered it. But I just hadn't played it in such a long time.
The way you were obsessed with it for a couple of months there is like
I was definitely. It was a solid amount of time.
yeah. Death's
Game, I forgot to put it. I watched so many Korean shows, so I would like just forget to put it on there. But that definitely would have made it onto my honorable mentions if I remembered it.
Chaos.
Chaos on there. Yep. Mummy Returns. I actually was going to put it on one of my tops, but then there are like more serious shows that I wanted to put on there. So I put it in my honorable mentions. But yeah, this is definitely like
You're
pretty solid.
So wrong for that. But yeah. Like I said, this is the list that should have been. Honestly, I had NADPOD and Fantasy High as like two separate things. But then I really thought about it. I'm like, those are they kind of have the same.
Yeah, but you kind of came in clutch with that. I'm glad you put it on the same line like I did on mine.
Yeah, I was also surprised. I was like, yes. Okay. All right. So those were the bests. Congratulations to our winners. Let's dampen the mood a little bit.
We should always end on a low note, as 2024 did.
Oh, buddy.
Is it art imitates life? Life imitates art?
For real. So let's get into our worsts. Our worsts. It's time for roast mode. Let's go. So for my bests, I really struggled with that because I feel like there were very few things that really blew me away last year. But for my worsts, I had the opposite problem where there's so much that I hated. There's so much stuff that I really just deeply disliked that I had trouble like.
For me, it was the exact same, but my problem was different. Since there were so little bests, that was really easy. I got that done really quickly. Since there were so many worst, there was so many to choose from, so I had trouble picking.
Okay, I think I'm going first this time. So, for the worst of 2024, in 5th place, we started off the year talking about it.
Yes.
It has not changed as one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's Lift. You know him. You love him. It's the Kevin Hart heist movie.
We don't need to say much on this. We've said all there is to be said.
We said all. We literally, to prepare for this episode, I was like going back to re-listen to it, and I don't even know if I captured how much I hate this movie.
This movie's like some real ass.
It truly felt like 2 hours of Kevin Hart trying to pretend that he's some cool, suave criminal. But it comes off as
this movie had no substance at all. I cannot believe they made this movie. It was such a nothing movie.
Honestly, it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's so bad.
What's with these heist movies making it to our top 5 worst?
Yeah, after Tower Heist last year. Yeah, this
Not the Tower Heist nightmare. Like, truly a trigger word for me. I cannot. Makes me so angry.
Yeah, so if you want to hear a whole lift rant, go back, listen to our best and worst of 2023. This was definitely one of the worst. I think we very clearly explain why this movie sucks, so we can move on. Okay, you're fifth. Let's go. Oh.
So, Sniper Grit, Global Response, and Intelligence Team. So there was this one day, my dad and I wanted to watch a movie together, right? And this had been saved to my list on Netflix because I thought, this is some action franchise. It has to be kind of decent. I'm sure there's a little bit of trashy in it. I was not prepared for the amount of trashy this was. This movie was so fucking bad. The worst plot, the worst bad guys I've ever seen in an action movie. The bad guys all like color coordinated, this leprechaun green. If I could show you fucking pictures, it was absolutely so unserious. This movie was so bad. My dad hated it too. This is a meme in our house now. Whenever he suggests a movie, this is a franchise. Whenever he suggests a movie, I always suggest another movie in this franchise. I cannot emphasize the amount of trash this movie was.
I don't feel even a little bit surprised because look at this poster. It's the most Sharknado cheap ass poster. I don't recognize a single actor.
With the, like the sniper, like the scope. So, it's bad.
The way that the actors don't blend into the background, like it looks so low budget. So I'm honestly shocked because I feel like this would be a fun movie to roast, but
it is so fun to roast for sure, but it was so bad. We need to watch one of the movies together.
I'm down. I love watching bad movies. Honestly, that's why bad movies tend not to.
This was truly
that's
bad.
why Lift is on my list because it was not fun to roast. It was just bad. But this looks like it's gonna be so bad that it's like fun.
I don't know, man. Like it wasn't that fun either. But I think like if I was watching it with you guys.
Yeah, to be fair, it's not like I enjoy watching bad movies on my own. It's more like we watch it together and so it's fun. But
yeah, it's a community thing.
Are you ready for number 4?
Yes.
Okay, number 4. Look, there's manhwa on both my list. I read some of the best and I read some of the worst. This one was so confusing. Your ultimate love rival. The plot starts off like so many manhwa I've read where they're taking a trope and then flipping it. And so the trope of this one is supposed to be that this girl has been, I believe she's been isekai'd, correct?
Yes.
She makes friends with the female lead of the original story. And the flip of it is supposed to be that instead of this harem of the female lead and all her male lead picks, she loves our isekai girl so much that she picks our isekai girl. And so she's supposed to be like the love rival for all these dudes because she's such a good friend to this girl. Well, they claim it's platonic, but you get some not so platonic vibes from them, to be honest.
Oh, for sure.
And so you think that that's what the story is going to be like. But then this takes such a left turn. Halfway through, there's like a demon. And then the story becomes about the OG female lead's brother Felix for some reason. Mr. Whitehair over here. Like, it gets so bizarre. And the manhwa doesn't do anything to explain why. In one scene, he's just chilling at home. And then in the next scene, he's dying on the ground. You're like, how did we get here? Where's the A to B? You were fine 2 minutes ago. What's up?
You know what's so crazy? I dropped this and I actually picked it back up and finished it.
That is crazy. I cannot believe you read the whole thing.
I'd like to report from the scene. It did get worse. It truly was so underwhelming. I finished it just because I was so f***ing close to the ending. And so I zoomed through that shit. There's like a really weird cult plot line that I didn't understand. I actually thought about putting this on my worst, but.
Oh my God. Can I also say that another thing that I really dislike, and honestly is one of the reasons that I dropped this, is I really cannot stand unrelentingly ditzy female men leads. In if her only personality trait is that she's really cute and caring and otherwise is like a total klutz and is constantly getting saved. It happens so often.
Yeah, that's exactly what the female lead of this manhwa is.
Yeah.
She literally has no strength whatsoever. No, she's not smart or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Sometimes it feels like what the author wants is for the male lead to be the protagonist. But instead of making him the protagonist, we're just observing the story through the female lead's eyes.
Yeah, honestly, it felt like she was a second lead here and Felix was the main character. Because he went through like some hard arcs. Like,
yeah, I dislike that. I really dislike that. So that's another reason I dropped it. Anyway, it's bad. Moving on. All right. Oh, okay.
yeah. So the Mr. and Mrs. Smith show based off of the movie.
Dude.
So I thought this would be really awesome, right? Like, loved the movie. Loved the movie. I've like rewatched it like 3 times. It's such a fun movie. And then we get this bullshit show. This show was so boring. Like, you think this would be like an action spy movie. Like, where the was the action? Where the was the spying? This was like a drama. And it was so boring too. Nothing happened. I dropped this show. This show was so bad. It was so bad. And it's like this was such an immense disappointment.
Okay. I love both of these actors. They have zero chemistry.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Absolutely. Zero chemistry.
It wasn't even like they felt platonic. They felt like strangers. Like the dialogue, their scenes together were so awkward. Their romantic scenes did not feel all that romantic.
Yeah. Oh my God. You're like right on the money. Like, it was so bad. How did they cast these 2 actors together? They had zero chemistry. Did they not do a chemistry read? I mean,
I don't know, dude. You're absolutely, everything you're saying, 100% I agree. It was so boring. I dropped it after 3 episodes. And honestly, I could have dropped it after the first episode because it starts off on such a cool note with those 2 people getting murdered and they're already Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And then they get murdered and then these guys are suddenly... So it feels really cool. It
kind of felt like a little sci-fi in the beginning. And it was like really cool and stuff. But
yeah,
what was this bullshit?
Yeah, it goes nowhere.
The guy made such stupid I cannot emphasize the stupidity of this dude. And the girl was so unlikable. I did not like her. Yeah, everything about this was bad. I think I knew from the moment I started this and dropped it, this was really going to be on my list for the worst.
Okay.
Like, I knew it would make it up on here. So, you're number 3.
I want to say, so the jump from my 4 and 5 to my top 3 is huge because Lift I hate, but it's kind of funny, and Your Ultimate Love Rival was bad. The visceral hatred I have for my top 3, I don't even know if I can express. I don't want to talk too much about it. It's A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 4th ACOTAR book. And I was not going to read it. I thought that the series ended already on a good note, and I despise Nesta. And so I wasn't going to read it. And I think I'll be talking about this more. It's already recorded. We have an ACOTAR episode coming out, and I'll talk about it more then. But the way that every single character from the original series was ruined for me by this book is crazy. And the thing is, it didn't even redeem Nesta as a character for me. Because I don't like her still. Having read this book, she still sucks. I just understand her more. I read this because I knew we were going to talk about it, and so I had to. But also because somebody told me, like, hey, actually give this a try. It was really good. It's my favorite of the ACOTAR books. Buddy! If this is your favorite ACOTAR book...
People who say this is their favorite book, they need help. I really, truly think they need help.
For real. I don't know. It was bad. Also, Cassian is boring. You can fight me.
No, I agree. People say Cassian's their favorite character, and I'm like, what, why? Like, what prompted you?
Why?
Like, why?
Why?
I just don't understand. He's so boring. He's like nothing special.
ACOTAR in general, I feel like, is a plot-driven story and not a character-driven story because...
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
The characters are kind of bland. Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about this a lot more in our ACOTAR debrief. So, moving on, number 3. Let's go. Ooh, I agree with this.
Yeah. That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming. So I thought that this would be like a fun, goofy book. I knew this wouldn't be like a serious read or anything. I specifically picked this book up to get out of my reading slump. Like, it was so cringy. It was so cringy. It was so bad. It was just such a bad book. People say it's like a quirky book. It was just it was a bad book with a bad plot, and it's just such a bad book, like such a low quality book. I don't know. Like, if you enjoyed it, fine, but I just didn't. This is my worst list. I can do what I want.
So I didn't read this one. I read, I think, the 3rd book in the series.
Oh, do you know? I think I read like the first 3 books actually. Maybe I should have done the series.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And each one of them was worse than the last. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me personally, I don't enjoy the kidnapping trope in general.
Mm-hmm.
I don't enjoy coerced relationships in any way. That's just a me thing. The thing that I feel about these books is I think there's a certain level of, you have to accept that they're spicy books, right? Like, that's the point. It's supposed to be quirky, but it's also supposed to be spicy, right?
Yeah.
So I think you have to look at it through a lens of, this is gonna be trash. But I think that even trash can be good, you know?
Yeah, this wasn't even like trash in a good. I thought it would be funny, goofy trash. That's why I picked it up. But
like, if you like it, I don't think that means you have bad taste or anything. It's just, I think it wasn't for me, I would say.
I regret reading this book. That's what it is. I regret reading this book.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair.
Yeah, this doesn't deserve any more time. Let's move on.
So I want to preface before we go on to number 2 that I've given you quite a bit of time. So before we get into number 2, I feel like this was inevitable. And so I just want to say, we'll go somewhere from here, but it needs to be said. My number 2 is When the Moon Hatched. I've given you months and months to read this so we could talk, but I wanted you to.
But would you agree that was a good swerve on my part? Like, I did. Like,
no, but
I sensed something through the Force. I
wanted you to read it because I really, really thought I was going crazy with this. Because the way people love this book. And when I read the summary, the way that I thought I was going to love this book, the cover, gorgeous.
Yeah.
The world building, so cool. I think we talked about this. The concept of dragons turning into moons when they die that can hurtle to the earth at any given point of time, so cool. The concept of being able to connect to the gods through song, so cool. And I waited for a long time for you to read it just so that I could try to get my thoughts together. But in the months and months of waiting for you to read this, I've kind of done my own self-reflecting.
I truly did let you down.
I've kind of done some self-reflecting. I think I can definitively say this is bad. So When the Moon Hatched, it has a very interesting plot in theory, because you have this main character who has no past, but is now an assassin for a rebel organization. And the first 30% of the book is so interesting because it's about her taking on these missions, but also feeling a little bit bound to the guild, not of her own volition, but also the only person she cares about is her roommate, and then her roommate gets murdered and she goes on a killing spree. And then also in the background of this, there's like this second presence in the back of her mind who sometimes takes over and is incredibly violent. And you meet the supposed male lead character, and initially they have this really cool back and forth. There's so much here that I feel like could be so good. I don't know what the happened in the last half of this book. I don't know. Sarah A. Parker, were you on something? Like,
This was the real plot twist.
There comes a point where I can pinpoint exactly when it started not being entertaining to me. And there's this point where she's captured by the male lead. He rescues / captures her, right?
As they do.
As they do. And there's this point where she's escaping, but she stays because he's so sexy. And they almost have sex, but he doesn't want to sleep with her because he wants her to love him. And brother, the way that I could not give less of a about their romantic relationship, but suddenly the book takes a left turn and becomes only about the romantic relationship. Secretly, they've already been together for a very long time. She supposedly dies and comes back, right? Without her memories. And so he remembers her and he's already in love with her, but she doesn't know him. And it's not a new plot line. I've read that before and I've enjoyed it before because there's supposed to be like this level of angst to it. But for some reason, it just wasn't working. It was really not working. I think my main problem is that she bases so many of her decisions on him. And it's like, why? Because it's not like she loves him. They get together at the end, but it's not like she loves him. I don't think she could tell you anything she likes about him beyond his abs and his beard for some reason. Like, she bases, like, she doesn't want to escape because she doesn't want to hurt his feelings. Like, be so fucking real right now. There's a whole revenge plot running in the background where her roommate's been murdered and she wants to catch the guy who did that to her. And he's like,
oh my gosh, that's wild. It sounds wildly similar to something else I've read.
Wow, gee, I wonder.
And also, you know what sounds wildly similar? The assassin with no past also sounds wildly familiar.
I wonder.
The rescued but also kidnapped plot also sounds wildly familiar.
The things that I thought made this book interesting was the world building. Truly, it has some of the coolest world building. Every bit of world building is ruined by the pacing, I think. The book moves so fast and so slow at the same time where we're supposed to buy that these characters love each other, but it's not believable because they've done nothing to establish a relationship between them. He loves her. Fine. He remembers a version of her that isn't necessarily her. Whatever, but maybe he's still in love with her. But she has no reason to love him. And it's so much of the book is spent on the development of their relationship, which would be fine if that's where we started. But we started off with a completely different rebel organization, assassin, secret past plot line, and all of it gets derailed for this honestly subpar, bland, lust-filled romance that does nothing, absolutely nothing to make you buy that these characters are in love with each other. And
God, I hate when that happens.
The way that I skimmed like the last 20% of this book.
Isn't this is like a 700-page book, right?
Yes.
Like a 600-something page book.
Yes, this book should have been 300 pages and they should have cut a lot. Look, the only thing I think was the plot twist at the end. That's fine. But otherwise, this was a trope-filled mess. Truly a mess. You should still read it though.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe I will one day. Maybe I will one day, which means maybe I won't, but also maybe I will. Because I have read trash books knowing that they're trash. Like I did read the next 2 series of that I got whatever, the Lemon series.
Yeah.
Like I did do that. So who knows? I might read it.
Yeah, this was just so bad. And it's to the point where I doubt I will read the next book because the way that I could not give less of a shit about any given character. I'm sorry.
That might make the book so fun though. Like if something happens, you'd be like, hey, I got you.
Don't know because there's so many everybody already knowing her, but technically she doesn't remember them and sort of the angst of that situation. These are things that I should like, but I think it was just executed really poorly.
You know what else has that one person remembers the past life or the past and the other doesn't? Mm-hmm. Gyeongsung Creature has that, so you might really like that.
There you go. Probably,
and it's obviously done in a much better way.
Honestly,
it was on my top.
Honestly,
list.
It could have been. Oh, also they're fae for some reason. It has zero impact on the story.
It doesn't
whatsoever.
Why do they need to be? Why?
There's no reason for them to be fae. There's absolutely
just
none of the lore.
Buzzword.
Hey, none of the lore plays into it whatsoever. It's just you're right. It's just like the buzzword. Oh, I'm so
Man,
disappointed.
that sucks.
There's like a deeper conversation we need to have, I think, about like the state of the genre, where I feel like a lot of books are struggling with having 600 pages and 80% of it is just two characters thinking the other one is so hot. And it's usually the girl character daydreaming about this man's muscles. Like, gang,
Mm-hmm.
there's only so much of it I could take. Like, moving on. I've talked about this for way too long.
I mean, it was a long book, so you deserved that rant.
Yeah.
A long journey.
Yeah.
All right, my number 2.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Wait, you're so right.
dude,
How did I forget about this?
we read this in February of this year. We read this for like a book club we were a part of. I went back to that app and I looked on the book selections calendar to make sure we read it this year. And we did. The title is My Dark Romeo, and it's by Huntington Park S. and L.J. Shen. New York, wait, does this say Wall Street Journal bestseller? I'm not gonna, nope. My Dark Romeo is a standalone, reluctant arranged marriage romance between a cruel billionaire heir and a feisty heiress unafraid to fight back. This book was so bad, and so I cannot emphasize how much this book sucked. I cannot believe I read through this. I cannot believe that this is in my brain. Like, I cannot believe that this is in a file in my mind palace, you know? Like, that is so annoying to me that this book has come across my brain. It's truly such a toxic, I know it's supposed to be toxic, but it's so much more toxic than the romance aspect of it. Where the did that come in? Like, oh, how did they feel? Like, I just don't understand. This whole how they get together is so fucking like nasty on like the guy's part. I just don't. The guy is truly one of the worst male leads I've ever like come across in a piece of fiction.
Okay, I'm gonna say something, and I don't think you're gonna like what I have to say.
I have a feeling I know what you're gonna say, but say it anyways.
To preface, I did not like this book. I think we talked about this in the Gulag episode. I think we even mentioned this book in the Gulag episode. One of my red flags in a book is I don't like coerced relationships, but more importantly, there's this type of romantic relationship that I don't like, where usually the male lead, but not always, is super possessive and controlling and takes away the female lead's choice or the other partner's choice, right? Mm-hmm. And this book is a lot of that. If you like that sort of thing, I don't think this was bad in that sense. If you're a fan of those tropes, and if you're a fan of toxic relationship style dark romance books, I will say that this is actually a decent dark romance.
Like, yeah, it was like decently written. This is my worst. So this
No. And I agree with you. If I had remembered that we read for some reason I felt like we read this last year, but that makes no sense because it was Galentine's. But if I had remembered it, it might have been on my list too. Like, I did not enjoy the romance aspect of it. There were some points where the plot, I won't say the plot was good or anything, but I think it was like there was drama, and I like drama. So I wouldn't call it the worst thing I've ever read. Like, to me, this was disgusting. The age gap, I'm not a fan. She's 20, he's 30. It's weird. She's in college. It's weird.
Like, she was in high school 2 years ago.
Yeah, and her being obsessed with having kids. I don't know how I feel about that. It's just, it feels super manipulative.
It is super manipulative.
Yeah, to the credit, the female lead is, I think, I wouldn't say strong, but she does push back, which is good.
But she pushes back in a very childish way.
Oh, yeah, because she's a child.
Like, you can feel her age.
You can, and honestly, like, the power imbalance is what makes it super uncomfortable. And like I said, I did not like it. It wasn't a struggle to get through, but I knew going into it that I wasn't going to enjoy it, you know? It's like sticking your head in the sewer and then being mad that it smells bad.
Yeah, but like, I still didn't like it.
No. And you're valid. But if you like dark romance, I would, this might be actually a book I recommend because it's dark romance. I just despise dark romance as a genre, but to each their own, you know?
But did she have to be that young? Like,
hey man, some people
can still,
some people like that.
no, literally,
even
if her, I don't know.
No,
like,
it's wrong. Look,
she could have been at drinking age at the minimum, you know?
I honestly, I cannot wrap my head around, because I remember what I was like at 20, and I'm not that much older. I'm not that much older, but I think of 20-year-olds as babies. So
Yeah, I think anyone younger than me is. My toxic trait is I think anyone younger than me is a baby. Yeah, it's a no for me.
it's a no for me. This was not good. Well, that's the thing. I don't know if I can say it was not good. I didn't like it. How about that?
Yeah, it's just, no. Yeah, I did not enjoy my time with it, so that's why it's up there.
If I had remembered this was this year, this maybe would have made my list.
Your number one?
And my number one, drum roll. This should be absolutely no surprise to anybody who's listened to this. It's A Fate of Wrath and Flame. Look.
Yeah.
Look.
Yes, I remember this distinctly.
Look, the rage I felt for this book. Honestly, I would say my top 3 books could be sort of rearranged in any order. But the difference is that I went into Silver Flame knowing that I probably wasn't going to love it. And When the Moon Hatched had some promise. This book.
Yeah. From the plot was not.
Was so bad. And I talked about this in our Fourth Wing. I talked about this in our Fourth Wing episode. Like, I don't want to harp on this too much. It was so bad because I had such high hopes as a fan of isekai. And it was true.
Like, I feel so bad for your brain that, you know, like how I didn't like My Dark Romeo was in my mind palace. Like, I feel so bad that this is in your mind palace.
I think the problem for me isn't even that this is the worst book I've ever read. It's the betrayal. It's the betrayal of having such a good prologue and having such a interesting summary only to be absolutely disgusting, boring, not even disgusting, boring vampire trash. Twilight was more enjoyable to me to reread than this book.
Wait, if someone put a gun to your head and said either read A Fate of Wrath and Flame or Midnight Sun, what would it be?
Yeah, that's actually hard because I did finish this book. I finished this book with the hope that it would get better, and it never did. But Midnight Sun, I had to stop reading because I couldn't take it.
So if you had to reread this or read Midnight Sun,
I think I would shoot myself. Like,
you would take the gun and say, go ahead.
Like, I know it's just a hypothetical, but the visceral reaction I just had to the idea of reading either of these over again. It's bad. It's just
the absolute. I think the worst bullet you've taken for me is this
real,
book.
because I know you would have read this with that summary, with that isekai summary.
I definitely would have read with that summary. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough, buddy. All right, moving on to your number one.
My number one. What is my number one? Drum roll.
Yo! Yo! Let's go!
Yeah, it's Hot Frosty. It's on Netflix. I think it like blew up for a little bit, but
it did.
I was furious watching this movie. I was furious and uncomfortable. I was so sweaty watching this movie. I was so sweaty with my uncomfortability with this movie. Basically, this dude who's the snowman, there's the snowman and he turns into a dude. And then, like, the lady who found him, they fall in love. The problem is, my dude, the snowman, has the intellect of a 10-year-old. So this is inappropriate, okay? This is inappropriate. This is illegal. My girl needs to be taken to jail, to gulag, straight to gulag in handcuffs. There's that. Also, her acting,
dude.
Gretchen was really fucking bad. That's not her name. I don't fucking remember her name. Her acting was miserable. I was miserable watching her trying to be miserable. Her acting
was the worst part of this movie. It was so bad.
She's supposed to be a grieving widow, and I got none of that. I got none of that.
Okay, how much of this is recency bias, and how much of this you actually think that Hot Frosty is the worst thing you watched last year?
No, it's the worst thing I watched. You
Oh
guys
wow.
seem to
You
enjoy it
think
more than me.
Hot
I hated
Frosty
it.
was worse than Lift?
Yes.
Okay, that's
Yes.
shocking.
Are you kidding? Yes. You know, in Lyft, at least you
Dude.
got some fucking
No,
something.
no,
But
no.
Hot Frosty was some
I will not take this
trash.
Lift apologist dialogue. Like,
You for putting Sonic on your back. I can put Hot Frosty on my
cinematic
worst.
masterpiece. Hot Frosty does deserve to be in your worst. Hot Frosty was really bad. And it's not just the uncomfortable aspect of him acting like a child, but somehow falling in love with her. It was the acting in general. It was the plot. Like, there was no plot. Oh my god, it was so
Like
bad.
it wasn't even funny either.
The bar for Christmas movies is so low because you kind of go into it expecting them to be bad, right? And I do enjoy like the typical Hallmark Christmas movie awful plots and cheesy dialogue. I expect all of that, but there's something about this where I felt like it was too overproduced for what it was, that it kind of sucked the joy out of it, and it was just kind of boring for a lot of it.
Yeah, this feels like a script that was written in like maximum 10 minutes. There's this point in the movie where this dude is found by this woman and he goes to help her at his house, and there's like a gathering of older women and they're all thirsting over him. And he doesn't really have a clue, and once again has an intellect of a 10-year-old, and that was just so nasty to me. That's just so nasty to me that the writer thought that that would be funny. Like, I know it's not supposed to be serious, but it was serious for me.
Feel like they sat in the writer's room and came up with the idea of, hey, what if a snowman came to life, and then went absolutely nowhere further.
I think the thing is that there's like a kind of pattern in my worst 1 and 2 that both are gulag relationships.
Yeah. Okay. So it's time for honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Okay, dishonorable mentions rather.
Yep.
I think I'm up first. Yeah. Mr. and Mrs. Smith was also on
I can't believe, dude, I don't think we've ever talked about that together either.
Yeah, dude. That show was just, you said it all. It was bad. That stupid Colin Bridgerton book. Look, I think it would have been on my list. The only thing is that I went into that book knowing that I wasn't gonna like it. It's not even like with A Court of Silver Flames where I was like, oh, maybe there's a chance that this is good because some people like it or it's been recommended.
Yeah, I think with your
I knew.
With your worst, it's like you went into things with hope and then got betrayed.
And then got betrayed. Yeah.
And I'm so sorry you had to go through that. And I am really sorry you had to go through that.
I mean, honestly, it did. This being on my dishonorable mentions kept Bridgerton season 3 from being off of my worsts, because the book made me understand why season 3 was such a disappointment. Because there's nothing to that book. Lara Croft, brother, that was rough. We talked about that too. Halfling Saga book 3. This is another one where I had hope for the series and then it just went bad, and that book was rough. And then Midnight Sun was unredeemable trash.
Yep.
It was rough. I DNF'd it. That's another one where it didn't make my list only because it feels wrong to put this on my list when I knew I wasn't going to like it.
Yeah. I can't believe I read that. Like, I am really brave for reading that. Like, back when I did.
I give her a Medal of Honor, truly.
Yeah.
It was rough. But at the same time, I knew going into it that I wasn't going to like it. So it's not really fair for me to say it's the worst thing I've read. I had no hope for it. So, yeah. Okay, your dishonorable mentions.
So first up is a Korean show that's a sequel to another.
Oh, I love Strong Girl Bong Soon. So this is a shock.
So that was like a really fun show, and then they came out with the sequel, and people were really excited. And the sequel is called Strong Girl Nam Soon. It's really fucking bad. It was such a disappointment. The only redeeming thing about this was the villain. He was a really good villain. The next is the Majorca Files. I've talked about it. Such a trash show. Bad acting, bad plots, bad crimes. Truly disappointment of the year. The Impossible Heir. It could have been such an interesting plot, and it just crash landed. I don't know what the writers were thinking. It was just such a bad script. Such a bad story. Lift obviously is on there. Since my dad wanted to watched this. We watched Red One. I honestly don't think this should be on there because like it wasn't the worst thing I've watched. Like I did have some fun watching it. So I think I kind of did it dirty by putting it up on there. But it's like kind of trash too.
Yeah.
The next one is Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder by Joanna Fluke. I think this one actually should have been 1 or 2. Because this was one where how your experience of going into it with like big expectations and being let down. This is what it is. This was such a mediocrely written book. This was there was no like excitement to the murder at all. There was how the murder was solved. The murder itself wasn't even relevant. The character just went around baking cookies and giving it to people. People told her everything. It was a bad book. It was a bad murder mystery. And I am so sad about that because I had truly high expectation for this series. The next one is a Korean variety show called Apartment 404. They like canceled the show because it did so badly. I think the creators definitely thought it would become such a big thing because Jennie from Blackpink is in it.
Oh, wow.
But it was such a bad, like it was so boring. And then, yeah, lastly, Fourth Wing. I did put it on dishonorable mentions because I was really just dragging my feet through it. It was so boring to me.
I get it. Like, there's a reason that it didn't make either of my lists. It's not the best, it's not the worst, but I had fun reading it. That's all.
Yeah, the problem with, I didn't read a lot, so it had to be on there.
That checks out. Okay, it's time for our guesses. Okay, I got pretty close.
Yeah, I think you got all of them. I thought about including Lara Croft, but I thought that would be unfair since we only watched the first episode.
Yeah, but the first episode was real rough.
I hated that so much. We were so mad.
It was not it, bro. It was not it.
Everything else is like on the thing, so
yep.
This is extremely solid.
Yeah. I'm honestly shocked.
Yeah. I honestly want to preface my guesses by saying that I devoured that shit. I did eat that up. I did eat my guesses up. Like, I am extremely proud of my guesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Honestly?
Right?
Honestly? Yeah, you got 3 out of 5, and then
like, are you
pretty
kidding?
much everything else. Yeah. So those are our
Is that
list.
it?
Yeah, we got through it all.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So 2024, I honestly feel like I read a lot worse books than good ones.
I think maybe it's just me, or did you read a lot more this year?
Oh, for sure.
Sorry, last year.
For sure. I read so much last year. Like, I made it a point to read. Both because we were doing this, but also because like reading is like one of my favorite hobbies. I would say it is my favorite hobby. So I wanted to read more, and I did.
Yeah, I definitely went off the deep end with reading. I just don't know. Reading, obviously, like, love, but I guess I just haven't been excited about new releases.
I have to be honest. I think part of the problem is also like, I don't know about you. I think you too. When COVID hit, I took kind of a break from reading in general.
Oh, for me, I think I read more during COVID.
But I feel like there was such a long period of time where I didn't read books because my process for reading or picking up new books has always been like browse the aisles, pick up the book with an interesting title, and then read it. But since I obviously didn't have that experience, I wasn't excited to read books on. I was purely like, I don't want to read ebooks. I mean, now I do, but back then I didn't want to. So I feel like I kind of missed out on sort of the direction that the genre was going. And so I feel like I'm now trying to reconnect, and I'm not really enjoying what's out there.
We would go to in high school and middle school, we would go to the library pretty much every single day. So we would keep track of shit, you know? So I mean, I personally never do. I just don't have that accessibility. I think that's probably why I've lost a lot of the excitement. Yeah, I don't know. I think I did a lot of other things other than reading.
Maybe this will be a year. So actually, as we're talking about that, let's move on to our low expectations. Or that's low expectations of ourselves to commit to actually reading or watching what we say we're going to, or low expectations of the potentially trash media we're about to consume. So maybe your low expectations of yourself this year will be to read more.
Yeah, definitely read more. And I'll add Your Eternal Lies on my low expectations.
Yes. Dude. I feel like you'll love it.
That and like, yeah. Oh, there's a show called 365 Repeat of the Year I want to watch. Oh, I guess Wheel of Time season 3 is season 3, right? Or the new Wheel of Time season is coming out. Surprisingly, I am keeping up with
So
that.
sort of like on a broader scale, though, I was like, do you have any low expectations for the year in terms of media?
Yeah, definitely for sure reading.
Yeah. But for my low expectations, though, I'm sort of setting a low expectation for the whole year. I'm not vibing with book talk. The recommendations are not it. There's very few things up there that I've actually enjoyed. And the ones that I did enjoy were books I were either already going to read or were recommended to me by people whose taste that I trust. And my goal for the year is to actually find a romantic book that I like.
Yeah, I think like that would definitely be a big thing for you since you've been reading like only books you hate or like only books you haven't enjoyed, whether like intentional or not.
Yeah. The next couple of books I have queued up are books that I think I will enjoy. Powerless 2, maybe not so much, but we'll see. As a more immediate low expectation, Onyx Storm just released.
Wait, so you are going to so you're in direct opposition to your
Again, you disliked Fourth Wing. I didn't hate it.
Oh, you're right, actually.
I liked Iron Flame. I am looking forward to Onyx Storm.
And I am happy for you. I am like actually so happy for you because
see, this is
whatever
what I
brings
mean.
you joy brings me joy.
The bar is so low. I thought Fourth Wing was fine. If the bar is that low, Powerless 1 is fine. If the bar is that low, it's not that hard, gang. Just take a half step up and hop over it.
Yeah.
All right? Why? Why are you out here limbo dancing with the devil? I'm begging you. The bar is in hell. Anyway, I'm excited, but my expectations are very low. Like, I'm going into this.
I mean, at least it ended on a really fun cliffhanger. Like, that is an absolute fun cliffhanger to put your main character through that. That's like literally, like, honestly so fun. I mean, that's like a really great cliffhanger.
Oh, actually, let me add on to this rant because we are doing Onyx Storm next. In order to like sort of set the tone for next episode, I'm seeing a lot of, since this book is coming out, I'm seeing a lot of people talking about how they hope this book won't be as bad because of Xaden and Violet's fighting. Okay?
Oh,
and I've seen a lot of people saying Violet is an unlikable main character, mainly because of how rude she is to Xaden. And listen. If you like Xaden because he's sexy and dark and mysterious and he's confident and you think that that's attractive, fine. That's fine. But don't sit here and pretend like bro did nothing wrong. He lied to her over and over and over again. And half of that goes out the window when he already clues her in to the whole Rebel Alliance. She already knows enough to get them all killed. All right? We've crossed that boundary. All right? There are no excuses, and he's still lying to her. And he actively admits that part of the reason that he's lying to her is because he's afraid she's going to break up with him. All right? If that's not manipulative behavior, That
is toxic behavior. Excuse me.
I get tired of people putting Violet down because, she's too mean to poor Xaden. Shut up! He deserves to be vetted. That's my hot take. Violet did nothing wrong. Xaden can go suck several. The end. Anyway.
People are wild for real.
Dude, I don't understand. I think Xaden's a cool character. I think they have a cool romance. I'm actually rooting for them. But to act like he's incapable of doing wrong, to act like he's absolutely absolved of all the guilt because, but Dane could read Violet's mind. Like, brother, shut up. Dane was on their side halfway through that book. Like, get out of here. Listen, we as a group as a society, need to
As a
stop
society.
forgiving toxic behavior because sexy. All right? We just do. We need some standards. We need some collective standards. All right?
Maybe we'll get some in 2025, but for some reason I doubt it.
Unlikely. Well, we're about to find out. If in Onyx Storm we just move on from it, I hope Rebecca Yarros hasn't been listening to people being like, Violet needs to be nicer. No, she doesn't. She needs to set that boy on fire. She has lightning. Light up his ass. Like, truly. Anyway.
Anyways.
Anyway, I think that's it for us. Thank you, everybody, for listening. You can follow us
on At Less Than a Day Pod on Instagram and Blue Sky. You can email us at lessthanadaypod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Goodreads and Storygraph.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.